Alright, welcome back to my channel. In the last video, we started looking at the Articles of Confederation and how it governed the United States after the American Revolution. And one of the major problems with that system was that it gave states more power than the federal government. So by the time the Constitutional Convention rolled around in 1787, delegates were pretty much in agreement that the new governing document needed to give more power to the federal government. But as they worked out the specifics of this new constitution, they ran into a bunch of tough issues to solve. And we're gonna start looking at those tough issues today. The first issue we're gonna consider is slavery. As you'll remember from previous videos, slavery was a big issue during the Revolutionary War. Many of the patriots who wrote and signed the Declaration of Independence were slave owners. And in that document, they argued that all men are created equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. At the same time, however, they also recognized that this argument against slavery would upset the balance of power between the northern and southern states. Now, for our purposes, what we need to understand is that the southern states had more representation in Congress under the Articles of Confederation than they would have if representation was based on population, and that meant that they had more power than they would otherwise have. So the Southerners wanted to keep the balance of power as it was, while the northern states wanted to shift the power towards them because they had more people. This issue came to be known as the representation conflict. Now, there were many different ways that this issue could have been resolved, and as we listen to the various compromises that were considered, I want you to keep in mind that each of these compromises represented a different balance of power between the North and the South. The Great Compromise, which was ultimately adopted, is sometimes called the Connecticut Compromise or the Three-Fifths Compromise. And it resolved the issue of representation by basing representation in the House of Representatives on population, but not including slaves as part of that population. Instead, each slave would count as 3/5 of a person for the purpose of representation. As we consider why this compromise was eventually adopted, it's important to keep in mind the broader context of the time period. Post-revolution, America was in a fragile state. The nation had just won its independence, and the leaders were concerned about stability. Western expansion was also a major concern. The Louisiana Purchase wouldn't happen for another 50 years, and so as the Founding Fathers considered what kind of nation they were going to build,